Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. If you're tuning in, you might be a focused learner trying to make sense of the California legal system, or, and this is completely understandable, you might be a family member currently dealing with the overwhelming emotional shock of a sudden arrest in Placer County. We know that receiving that late-night phone call is absolutely terrifying, but in those crucial first hours, what you need more than anything else is a clear head and structured, reliable information. And honestly, that's exactly what I'm here to guide you through today. Okay, let's quickly look at our roadmap for today. We're going to cover navigating an urgent arrest, simple versus deadly assault, misdemeanor or felony bail, the factors driving bail amounts, and we'll wrap up with the steps to secure release.
So, let's jump right into Section 1. Navigating an urgent arrest, the crisis phase. When you suddenly find out a loved one is sitting in the South Placer County Jail, panic is, well, it's the completely natural response. But to survive this process, you really have to pivot immediately from panic into action. Getting clear, neutral information right off the bat is hands down your biggest advantage. For this explainer, we're impartially breaking down data straight from Bail House Bail Bonds, an agency that has handled these exact situations in Roseville for decades. We are going to strip away all that confusing legal jargon to give you just the objective facts you need to actually navigate this complex system.
Moving right along to Section 2, Simple versus Deadly Assault, Decoding the Charges.
The absolute first thing you need to understand is exactly what your loved one is being charged with. Why? Because the severity of the alleged act fundamentally changes everything from how fast they can get out to the final cost of the bail bond. Let's look at PC 240, Simple Assault. This is an unlawful attempt to commit a violent injury. But crucially, there's no weapon involved. Because of that, it's usually filed as a misdemeanor. Now contrast that with a PC 245, assault with a deadly weapon. This involves a firearm, a knife, or even just another dangerous object. This one is almost always a felony, and quite frankly, it's one of the most serious charges seen in Roseville.
Beyond just the assault charges, you might also run into these very common associated charges. Take battery, or PC 242 for example. While assault is the attempt to cause injury, battery involves the actual use of force. We also see a lot of weapons charges, like carrying a concealed weapon or brandishing one. And I want to explicitly point something out here, especially if you're visiting from out of town. California does not recognize out-of-state concealed carry permits, none of them. It is a massive, common pitfall for out-of-state travelers who genuinely think they're carrying legally.
All right, Section 3, Misdemeanor or Felony Bail, the Divide.
Let's look at how the justice system actually categorizes these offenses, because this is the exact moment the financial and legal reality splits into two completely different paths for a family. We really have to understand a specific California legal concept called the wobbler. A lot of weapons and assault charges fall right into this category. It basically means the prosecutor has the absolute discretion to file the charge as either a misdemeanor or a felony, depending on the details of the case. This single decision by the prosecutor is the bridge between a relatively quick release and a severe, incredibly expensive legal hurdle.
So, the crucial takeaway here is comparing these two paths. If it gets filed as a misdemeanor, time is actually on your side. Misdemeanor bail is set pretty quickly, right from the Placer County bail schedule, shortly after booking. But if it's a felony, the rules change entirely. You're looking at an agonizing wait, because felony bail for serious assault has to be set by a judge at an arraignment hearing over at the Placer County Superior Court.
Let's dive into Section 4, Factors Driving Bail Amounts, the Math of Bail. Now that we've got a handle on the charges and the timelines, we have to face the financial reality. Take a second and just think about this. How exactly is the bail amount calculated for these specific weapons and assault charges? You know, it's not just some random number pulled out of thin air. The court actually uses a very specific calculus to figure this out.
It really comes down to these four primary factors. First, like we just talked about, whether it's filed as a misdemeanor or a felony. Second, the severity of the alleged injuries. Third, whether a weapon was involved. And fourth, the defendant's prior criminal history. So a prior violent record or the presence of a firearm, that's going to dramatically escalate the bail amount. On the flip side, first-time offenders where absolutely no injuries were involved generally face much more manageable, scheduled amounts.
But when things escalate to a felony assault with a deadly weapon, the numbers get incredibly heavy. According to local Roseville bondsmen, cases involving PC 245 consistently see bail amounts set by a judge in this massive range, anywhere from $30,000 to $150,000, and honestly, sometimes even more. For the vast majority of families, just coming up with that much cash on the spot is completely impossible. And well, that is exactly where the bail bond system comes into play. California law strictly sets the bail bond premium at 10% of the total bail amount.
This means families do not have to come up with $150,000 in cash. Instead, they pay a fraction of the total, just that 10%, to the bondsman as a fee, and then the bondsman covers the full amount to the court to secure the release. It's a real lifeline.
When you're dealing with local agencies like Bail House, their policy is extremely strict. Your bail bondsman explains the exact cost clearly before any paperwork is signed. We're talking no hidden fees, no sudden surprises, just complete transparency. I really want to emphasize why this matters so much. Families in the middle of a crisis are incredibly vulnerable. You absolutely need financial transparency before you sign your name to any binding legal paperwork.
Okay, bringing us to our final section, Section 5, Steps to Secure Release, the Path Forward. Let's provide a structured, orderly conclusion to what is usually a super chaotic topic by outlining the exact operational steps a local bondsman takes. Think of it as a playbook. Step 1, they conduct an immediate case review at the South Placer County Jail to pinpoint the exact charges. Step 2, for felonies, they closely monitor the court's arraignment schedule so your family doesn't have to navigate that complex waiting game blindly. Step 3, they sit down and explain the court-imposed conditions of the release. And finally, Step 4, fast bond posting to get your loved one out.
Let's actually look a little closer at Step 3, because securing the release, that is really only half the battle. The court is going to mandate strict conditions. These typically include heavy restrictions on possessing any firearms while the case is pending, strict no-contact orders with alleged victims, and mandatory check-ins. If the defendant doesn't strictly adhere to these rules, the bond can be revoked and they will go straight back to jail. No questions asked.
If there is one piece of practical reassurance you take away from this entire explainer, please let it be this. Practically speaking, you do not have to drive down to the jail in the middle of the night. Local bondsmen handle this entire crisis remotely, over the phone, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can literally start this process from the safety and comfort of your own living room. So, we've covered the charges, the heavy costs, and the steps to get them out, but I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Securing a release via a bail bond brings your loved one home tonight, but that is really just step 1. How will your family prepare to face the long, complex legal battle that's waiting for them tomorrow? Remember, bail isn't the end of the story. It's literally just the beginning of your defense. Stay informed, stay focused, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.